Welcome back to Open Line. Tonight we're talking about the cost of being a parent and just having our families set up to succeed. And I want to review what you all talked about, the efforts on Capitol Hill really quick. What's going on that could be passed quickly?
Goodness, so hopefully reasonable pregnancy accommodations could be passed quickly. In some other states there have been other laws, even in other conservative states there have been laws that tend more toward closing that wage gap. Like we know that women earn about, moms in Tennessee earn about 72 cents for every dollar that dads earn. So when we look at states like Maryland or Louisiana, we see legislation that has been passed that would at least allow women the protection of knowing we could discuss how much we're making with colleagues without putting ourselves at risk for being punished or fired. And
that's the hardest part, is a lot of it's poo-pooed anyway to talk about money just in general.
Right, yeah.
But then it can be contractually against you to say, let's have this conversation. So then how do you get on a level playing field?
That's exactly right. So a lot of folks have limited it just to their public sector employees. That's what they did in Louisiana. So if you work for the public sector, if you work for the government, and you do want to talk about how much you're making with your colleagues so you know how you stack up and whether you have been discriminated against because of your gender, you can't get fired.
So this is a small step forward, perhaps.
Perhaps.
And maybe Tennessee will take the next step.
That's exactly right. And Tennessee hasn't even done that yet. So the first step would be to pass something like that.
Yeah, and this can be a big burden, because we know that women are stepping up more as the caregivers in the family.
Absolutely, and just back to that stat, when somebody's got to take time off to provide child care, 94% of those someones in Tennessee are women. So we do really see this having a disproportionate effect on moms.
And again, when you look at single parents, it's more often the woman who is the single parent providing for the family.
Yes.
And one other thing that's sort of related to all this that we haven't really touched on yet is the labor force participation rates.
Gosh,
so
important. We should talk about that.
And I think Tennessee has some really great data to show that Tennessee actually ranks 43rd in the country for the labor force participation gap. So what this basically means is it's the gap between the number of women who are either currently in the workforce or actively looking for a job and the number of men who are in the workforce or actively looking for a job. And we know, this is an issue right here in Nashville, where we have a lot of employers who have so many open positions that they're not able to fill. And we really need everyone who wants to work to be working. All of these policies that we've talked about today, whether it's paid leave or pregnancy accommodations, those can really incentivize more women to join the workforce and remain in the workforce.
Yes.
Absolutely. And again, we talked about the cost of turnover for businesses. It's quite expensive to have to lose an employee and then rehire and retrain
and get that person up to speed and into the level the first person was at.
Yeah, so part of it is really about growing our state's economy, right? And of course helping those families that need that extra paycheck just to get by. So just to double down on what Feroza said, 43rd in the nation, right? We have one of the largest labor force participation gaps in the country, and it's true both at the state level and then right here in Nashville. So at the state level, we see a 13-point gap between the percentage of men and the percentage of women who are either in the workforce or actively looking. And in Nashville, we've got 87% of men versus 79% of women who are in the workforce. So I think it's important that we and our policymakers do some real thinking about what would it mean to start to narrow that gap, get us out of that bottom 10% nationally when it comes to the number of women who can participate in our labor force.
And you really just can't blame it on the stereotype or the way it's always been, the woman stays home anymore. I mean, that's a large number. That's a big gap.
It is
There's
a big
lot
gap.
more at play here.
There really is. And like Feroza said, here we have an economy in Nashville where it's really a question of workforce, right? We're looking for workers. When we have jobs, for the most part, we're looking for high quality jobs, but also for the workers to fill those jobs. And so this isn't a matter of anything that maybe it would have been 50 or 75 years ago. This is really about getting the most qualified people into those jobs.
Yes, and I think it all boils down to is if we're not helping families succeed, more people are going to have to be helped by the government.
That 39%, right? So the women who don't have access to paid family medical, when you give them access, 39% less likely to require public assistance. This is about women who want to be at work, they want to stay at work, and this is about providing sort of that floor, like what, you know, that minimum that will allow them to go to work and know that their child is cared for while they're gone.
Right.
It's not, this is not anything that's really out there. This is just about those basic needs.
Okay, we are going to wrap things up real quick. When we come back, we're going to give out that helpline number. So have your pens and papers ready, and we'll give you some information. Just get a hold of these organizations. So stay with us.